Hello, my name is Molade Adeniyi, and I'm a student at the Certificate for Counseling, Batch 8 2023, student number 1123214A. I'll be talking today very briefly about the need for proper professional counseling in Nigeria. And I think before I start this, it's important to really talk a little bit about the history of counseling and how counseling really started. I think one of the things to take note of in towns when we think of in the olden days, there have been many small communities, and even though they may not have been used by the name of counseling, what you had were people in small communities, supporting one another if they sort of needed help. And these small communities kind of birth, you know, the traditional ways of counseling. The other thing to note with counseling, when we think of where we're sort of coming from, is sort of the traditional ways of counseling. So traditionally, in Africa, in Nigeria, as an example, when people were behaving out of the norm, there was, a misconception that they were probably under a demonic attack or a satanic attack or some kind of spiritual attack. And you would find that, people were chained, and people were restrained to prevent them from acting in a weird and a funny way. Birth this birth to things like asylum homes, mental institutions, especially when you look at the word of what is madness, or how are people dealt with, in that regard. And there's also a misconception. There are taboo words, like you can't say you have a mental illness. So things like depression, anxiety, all of those terms are not things that people readily, will count as, people talk about, because there's no there's nothing, there was so little information about it, and the need for people to, you have people say things like snap out of it. We're also a very religious country, so I think it's important to also talk about the Christian rituals as well. So back in the early days, it was really all about, there was a lot of churches involved, where pastors, ministers, imams, whatever religion it was, when people were suffering from some of these things, they would take them to the pastors, and they would pray, and they would cast out evil spirits from them. So when we talk about what is the need for proper professional counseling in Nigeria, it's because studies and evidence has shown the need for therapy and the need for counseling, and that life experiences make people do certain things. And when we think of counseling as an opportunity for people to be able to interact, sort out their feelings, try and maybe connect the dots to how something that happened in the past is what is causing them to act the way that they do today. That need is there because there are many people who are going through many things. They have no way of understanding what those things are, and then you're having dire consequences. People are committing suicide, people are making irrational decisions, people are behaving in such a way as they're causing harm to other people, and to themselves, as well. Therefore, the need is important. The need starts from real education, making sure that the whole mental wellness is not considered a taboo, and is not considered something that we don't talk about. I think that there's also the need for, in Nigeria, growing up, there's this misconception that, boys and men, for instance, don't talk about their feelings. You will hear things like "man up," "stop crying like a girl," etc., etc. So this has caused a lot of men, young men, older men, to suppress their feelings. And when the pressures of life get to them, they don't really feel the need to talk to anyone about it. And these stresses of life can compound issues and really make them make irrational decisions, really make them feel so low to the point where they're not sure about what's next. So there is a great need for proper counseling, proper professional counseling in Nigeria. I definitely believe that this is where we should be going. This is one of my favorite approaches. It's really helping people sort out, people have the answers instinctively. As human beings, we know what we should be doing. If we can have somebody who can talk to us and make us feel heard. So in conclusion, I would like to end with saying that proper professional counseling is needed in Nigeria. There needs to be more education, with people understanding that having a counselor doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means it's a process that helps you improve your quality of life and helps you become the best that you can be per time. Thank you.